speed.
Whoa.
Welcome to. Did you like that one?
I just wonder if it's going to be cut content or not.
Welcome. No, it's in there. Welcome to Midlife Krisis. I'm back. Uncle Bob's back. Whatever cute name I put under him is there. Everyone's a winner. Everyone's a winner.
Oh, those are good names.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to that.
Me too. I look forward to writing them every single time, and I'm trying to keep them unique every time. But eventually, I'm going to run out of ideas.
There's only so many episodes.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. So on today's chat show, we're going to do something we haven't done before, which is kind of funny.
Talked about a lot, though.
We talked about doing this a lot, but we're going to do it here and now. We're going to talk about what we are playing.
Yeah.
See if we can relate to you, the people out there, what you're playing. So feel free to leave a comment and create a dialogue with us, and we can chit-chat about the games that we are playing.
All the games that are being played right. And this has been a spectacular year for game releases, with a lot of big releases still to come. So it's a really good time to talk about.
I would argue the best is yet to come, because October and November are loaded. They're loaded with shit.
Well, the best may not be yet to come once we get to what I've been playing lately.
Oh, fucking foreshadow, dude. Yeah. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to start this one. I'm going to start on this one because I feel like what you're going to talk about, because spoilers, I know what he's going to talk about, and I feel like you have a lot to say about it. I have a lot to say about what I want to talk about, but I'm going to give you the floor because I think it's the right way to do it and a tasty way to do it.
I'm here for it.
So I finally beat Street Fighter 6. Anyone who knows me, knows the program, knows that Daddy loves fighting games. It's probably my pound for pound favorite genre of video games.
You got your Mortal Kombat 1 coming, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, then Tekken 8 comes in January. Ooh. So, yeah, we're rocking and rolling.
What a time to be alive.
Yep. Okay, so Street Fighter 6, what I want to talk about in particular is the World Tour mode. Let me ask you off the bat, do you know anything at all about what's going on in Street Fighter?
No.
Okay.
I know that the game involves the World Warriors.
Yes, as it would. Yeah. Okay, so they did a really cool thing that I think fans have been clamoring for a really, really long time. Like a good, proper single-player mode. So the Mortal Kombat series, starting with the game that they just called Mortal Kombat, but fans call it Mortal Kombat 9. To me, like they being NetherRealm Studios, Ed Boon and et al. Company, they just did a fucking phenomenal job of making a super compelling single player fighting game with that. They basically retell the story of the original trilogy, the arcade trilogy, in this really cinematic way. Even if you're like a casual, like you grew up with Mortal Kombat kind of fan,
like me,
you would love it. You would love this game. And you could probably get it on sale on Steam for like 50 cents or whatever it is. But they kept that momentum going. So Mortal Kombat X10 comes out, same thing. The single player mode, the story is great, super compelling. It's, arguably the best mode of the game. And then Mortal Kombat 11, same deal. Mortal Kombat 11 gets a little weird, a little zany, wacky, which is fine by me if it's done right. And I do think they do a great job with it. But they go like real wild with the story, which is what's giving Mortal Kombat 1 like its start, the fact that they kind of reset the universe. So now they can kind of do whatever they want. If they want a Lady Scorpion, they can put in a Lady Scorpion, which is cool. I don't think they're making a Lady Scorpion, which, that's a mistake. But whatever. So tying this to Street Fighter 6, I got to talk about Street Fighter 4 and 5 to get there. So Street Fighter 4 comes out in 2009, and I mean, it's a franchise rebirth. It's a genre rebirth. Like Street Fighter 4 is a huge game, and it got people like talking about fighting games again. Now we've always been here. Us fighting game dorks have always been around. Yeah. But there's a period of time where, like, obviously, you lived through Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat. You saw the insane peaks of that. The late 90s, as the arcades are dying, Capcom introduces Street Fighter 3, which is a moving piece of art. It is one of the most beautiful games ever made. For fans of fighting games, it has like the most robust system. People to this day play that game in EVO, the world's biggest fighting game tournament. Street Fighter 3 is a masterpiece of a video game, let alone a fighting game. But nobody played it. And that was kind of the story of that game. It was too much. It was like too hardcore. You had to speak the language of fighting games to be able to approach that game. So for guys like me, it was perfect. But for everyone else who like casually loved Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat, it was too much for them, and they noped out of it. And then in the intervening years that led up to Street Fighter 4, it was more and more hardcore games like the Guilty Gear series. Like these are really like complex and technical games that if you haven't been keeping in touch and staying up to date with fighting games, like they're just not for you. I'm sure this is the same thing in like in RTS game. The shit that I don't like, like I'm sure that exists in other genres too. But Street Fighter 4 comes out, resets the whole deal, goes back to the basics, reintroduces all of the characters from Street Fighter 2, and it's beloved. Street Fighter 5 comes out, and somewhere in there is a great game. It would over time and over many, many updates become a good game. But when Street Fighter 5 launched, and so Street Fighter 4 had your standard issue arcade mode, but like they did go like the extra mile of like making like cool animated cutscenes of like telling each fighter's story for whatever, however shallow they are. I think at the end of the day, and this is a little bit of a bird walk, I think Mortal Kombat takes shit for being like the inferior fighting game engine. Today it's a little different. Like they're really neck and neck with like the fighting game community. People love those games, and there's a lot of professional competitive play within new Mortal Kombats. But back then, Street Fighter was looked at as like the gamer's fighting game, and Mortal Kombat was kind of more like the showy, like let's check out blood, that kind of stuff. But where Mortal Kombat always shined over Street Fighter, in my opinion, is their story and their commitment to it and all that stuff. Just look at the movies, like the Street Fighter movie with Van Damme. As much as it pains me to say this, because it's the boss, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
If that was ever a Brian movie, it's definitely that.
But it's like an unwatchable fever dream. I've to this day never sat through that movie from beginning to end. I've finished it, but in chunks. I have to do that movie in chunks because it's one of the most boring movies ever made. It's so bad. Anyway. Mortal Kombat movie is not. It's wonderful. Holds up today.
As a video game movie, it is still...
That's great. It's just great. It's 90 minutes of just pure entertainment. It's wonderful. So back to Street Fighter 5. When that game launches, and you probably don't know anything about this, but it's just emaciated. Like it has a training mode. It has like an online mode, and it has no single player content at all. Like aside from training, and like there's this like really bad... Like it was supposed to be a story mode that it came out, I think 9 months after the game launched. And it's this story mode in that it has words and pictures, but in terms of like following along with what's going on, like it's some anime ass bullshit. And no offense to anyone who likes anime. There's certainly pockets of anime that I love, but by and large, a generalization here. My issue with anime is that doesn't make any sense, and I have to like do all kinds of mental gymnastics to try to make those plot lines make sense. And Street Fighter 5 kind of for me, that story fell into that, and plus like it wasn't there from the beginning, so it's like what am I doing here? I like to play them online just fine, but as much of a fan of fighting games as I am, like I guarantee you I could beat you in any fighting game ever. That's fair because you don't give a shit about fighting games, but I'll lose all day to people who play fighting games.
Okay, that's where you are.
Yeah, I can beat all my friends that don't care about fighting games.
Yeah.
But I'm probably pretty lousy when it comes to the people who all they do is play fighting games.
But we had a whole conversation stuck into our Peakman episode about stories in games.
Yeah.
And your position was like, you don't really need it to be there. And if there was ever a genre where a story doesn't really need to be there, it would be the fighting game genre.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, like it was that way for all of the years. Like, so if you're a nerd about King of Fighters and Street Fighter and all these, if you do want the story, and eventually, like I was a big fan. Still, am a big fan of that stuff. Like, I did go out of my way to seek out other products that tell the story. So there's Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, which is way better than the live action movie. Yeah. And they tell you a little story. Like it's, again, this is not like, Shakespearean shit, but there is an element of interest there. King of Fighters, not so much. It's a little bit, it's kind of anime there. It's kind of hard to follow. But I love the games.
Killer Instinct.
One
of the worst stories.
I don't even remember it. I had your cabinet here for like half a decade. I know there's a company. They're called Ultratech.
Yeah.
That's it. That's as far as it goes.
It's amazing to me to this day that that game, which was being used to showcase the then Nintendo Ultra 64, decided to have its arch villain in the game called Ultratech.
It's a little little eyebrow raising when you put it in those terms.
Yeah, but anyway, the story of that game is that a bunch of people have a tournament.
Yeah, so fighting game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so I brought up all that Mortal Kombat 9 stuff just to say, so my position is the same. I don't need good stories in video games for me to enjoy video games. I prefer gameplay over really anything else when it comes to video games. Yeah. But I also said and I agreed with you, when it is good, it's good. And there are times where I do go out of my way to enjoy that aspect of video games. So Mortal Kombat 9 kind of spoiled me, and then 10 and 11 also, because they were really good, really fun, at times campy, at times serious, just really well executed stories for a fighting game. So Street Fighter V doesn't do that. It's rightfully derided as a product overall when it launches.
When does Street Fighter V come out?
2016.
And is it
15 or 16?
Okay, is this at the same time that these Mortal Kombat games are coming out?
Mortal Kombat X came out either the same months before it. It was in the same business cycle.
So are they direct competitors?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And Mortal Kombat, because it has a story, is just making Street Fighter look really, really bad.
It's bad, dude. The story's really good. Fucking Jason is in that game. Mortal Kombat X, the Jason is a selectable character. Leatherface for the ECW to the WWF.
That's they're now canon villains and
yeah.
Or characters.
No, that's the other thing too.
Mortal
that they started doing that in 9. They Freddy Krueger is in 9, and then
I kind of remember this.
Yeah, they went out of their way to get really cool cameo fighters for DLC. Great fucking idea.
Do we have Michael Myers yet? Is he shown up?
He is not. I don't think he is in there yet. And I think, well, maybe we'll see in the new one. There's that Outlander guy. I don't know anything about that show. I just know that it's popular. There's some heel from Outlander that's an announced character in Mortal Kombat 1. Anywho, so Street Fighter V sucks for a long time, and then through updates and DLC, it becomes a more complete game. But it's still the single player compared to Mortal Kombat's lacking. Street Fighter VI introduces World Tour, and that's what I want to talk about. So, you know me, 30 years. Literally next year, March of next year is when we kind of first became friends. And I remember this because it's all NBA Jam related. We bonded over NBA Jam, as you do.
Yeah. So we're at 29 and a half years.
We're at 29 and a half years right now.
Past our silver anniversary.
Yeah. So I turned 40 next March. Our upcoming March. And we're celebrating our sweet 30, which is not at all a weird and creepy thing to say.
Karaoke at round 1, Brian?
Yeah, let's do it, baby.
Karaoke at round 1.
Let's do it.
Duets.
Nothing but Swift. We're a bunch of Swifties. So World Tour mode in Street Fighter 6 is something that is aimed so specifically at me that when I tell you the features, you're going to be like, holy shit. They listened to your brain and made this video game. So I'll get the negativity out of the way first, because there's not much of it, but it is story related. The story that propels this 20 to 25 hour long campaign, it's whatever. It's there. Nothing special about it at all. It's not inoffensive. It's not offensive. It's just, it exists.
Is it centered around a particular character? Or
it's
is it
centered around and this is where now comes the praise. It's centered around your character that you create from the ground up.
Custom character.
It's a custom, and the character creator, the tool that they use, you can make some of the ugliest human beings you've ever seen.
How'd you do, Brian?
Real good. I'll show you off air, and actually I'll insert.
Oh, please do.
I have screenshots of my ugly character. I will insert those here. But so that you create a character from scratch, and then as you play through the mode, you you can become trained by the Street Fighters. So Blanca is your teacher. You fly to Brazil, Blanca teaches you electricity.
How does it? Is there dialogue? Do they get a voice actor for?
No, there's very little.
Andy Serkis.
Of course, it would be Andy Serkis. There's not a tremendous amount of voice acting. It does exist, but it's in the cutscenes, and then you know how Nintendo does it, where you'll hear the first word of a sentence read and then reading. So it's that.
In my head, Blanca has an erudite British accent. Like the Beast from Fantastic
It's David
Four.
Attenborough. He's just welcome to the world of Brazil.
First line of his obituary. Voice of Blanca.
He's really proud of it. Made it to 99. Anyway, he's still alive. Character creator tool is awesome. The mode itself is a full-on role-playing game and fighting game hybrid. So you roam around this world, you talk to people, you do all these side quests. Some of the side quests are really wacky, like in the Yakuza series, which I love. So like you're doing really kind of funny tasks to like achieve your goals. And then every time you battle, it switches over to 2D fucking Street Fighter. So, I mean, it's literally like my perfect video game.
Do you have levels? Are you gaining abilities while you're...
Dude, so you level up all the way. You can, there's gear that you can wear and you see it. And you can also, like, let's say like you find like a ridiculously funny oversized sombrero, as I did in my playthrough. Yeah. But I find a motorcycle helmet that has way better defense. So I can equip the motorcycle helmet, but keep, and this is something they do in Monster Hunter, which is just the fucking best. You can equip the what's it called, the buffs of the motorcycle helmet, but have the visual of the sombrero.
There's a name that's called transmogrification in World of Warcraft, which originated all of this, Brian. So you're borrowing from my
well, really, what we're doing is we're teaching each other.
Come on, we're teaching each other.
We're teaching each other.
That's good. I look forward to the 2D fighting sub game of the next World of Warcraft expansion.
I'll be there.
The only way I'll get you.
I'll be there.
The only way I'll get you.
Yeah, that's the only way. So yeah, you go through this whole world, and you, like I was saying earlier, like you get trained by Chun-Li and Ryu and all these people, and then you get to choose your move set. And the more you the longer you get, the way you level up, you get more and more slots for special moves. So you're basically tailor making your vision of a Street Fighter character visually and system wise.
And when you do that, do they say like, okay, here's two different moves. You can do a fireball or you can do a roundhouse kick, and then you pick one and then you cannot get the other one.
You can change them at any time.
Okay.
And you learn them as you go. If you spend more time being trained by one fighter of another, you're going to learn more of their moves. Like there's a couple fighters that I just didn't, I don't care about. Like I don't want their moves. So like I just got trained by them for like a little bit and then kind of noped out of there. I'm a charge character, so I love Blanca and Bison. So I gave Bison is unfortunately, and this is a big demarcation, he's not in Street Fighter 6, and that sucks.
How could they do that?
Well, I mean, look, it's a 30-plus-year-old series. Like you gotta go in and out with people here and there, that kind of a deal.
When you're when Blanca teaches you the electricity, so do you learn that? And as a move set, it's like you're doing the 2D fighting. Now somebody jumps and you hold the button or whatever, and then your non-Blanca character, your ridiculous-looking avatar that you created and will be showing on the screen, you just you hunker down and have the electricity come up.
So, okay, that's exactly what happens. And it goes further. So, you can pick a fighter's style. So, for example, I'll paint the picture of my character because I don't have I can't show it to you right now. But he's 9 feet tall. Yeah. He has the tiniest little hands you've ever seen attached to giant Popeye forearms and this fucking huge corpse grinder neck. And then a big fat Irish head with wispy gross hair. And then his eyes are as far apart as possible.
Sure. What was your inspiration?
Just ugliness in general. Just blanket ugliness. But I can select his style and then choose the style to be Chun-Li. And so here's this giant monstrosity of a man, and he's doing real feminine shit. Or they can pick Blanca, and now he's hunched over and doing this deal. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It's really,
he
really
actually
cool.
adopts the style, the physical mannerisms.
So you can give him all of Ryu's moveset, but then make him walk around and have the basic moveset of a Blanca.
Do they have is Dalsum in the?
Yes, Dalsum's in this one.
Okay, and then and he's got the
stretching arms. Yes,
yeah. So that's a skill that you learn. I will teach you how to have rubber arms.
I will listen. We would all go to that school if you could, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, it is. I mean, I literally dreamed of this video game. I'm sure, if you found notes that I wrote when I was a kid of all kids design video games. I'm sure, I made a what would happen if Chrono Trigger and Street Fighter made a baby? Well, they did. It's World Tour mode in Street Fighter 6, and it came out fucking 25 years later.
I remember you telling me as a kid that you wanted a game where you just had a character and you would just hurt him over and over again.
Yeah,
Limp Dudes, I think you.
It was called Limp Dudes. I was not a kid. I was an adult. I was in college, and that game was made. Turns out it's called Pain.
Yes,
and it came out on PS3.
No, we played it together.
And when that game came out, I was just like, "You sons of bitches!" Because they nailed it. They nailed it. That game is so fun.
It was fun.
It's an underappreciated PS3 exclusive. It's never been ported. I think you can play it on the if you pay for the ridiculous Game Pass knockoff that they do. Yeah. Oh, are you going to happily pay for the increase too?
No. So they had a sale a couple months ago. Okay. It was 25% off, and then I misclicked or something, and so I queued up 3 years of PS Plus subscription. I was like, I mean, I'm probably going to just, have my PlayStation
Yeah.
for that long.
I need
anyway,
these
but-
things.
Yeah, so I'm good through 2026 right now.
All right, you're solid.
Yeah, so when I saw the price increase, I was like, suckers,
Yeah.
who's laughing now? I misclicked my way to...
I'm gonna play Siphon Filter 1 again. Yeah, I get it.
yeah, so anyway, so I'm good.
Okay, so I'm not going to do that. It's not worth the money that it's now, and
Correct.
it's definitely not worth the money that it's going to be. So, but I will begrudgingly have to pay the increase on Vanilla Plus.
Come hang out at my house, guy. We'll play Pain together
There you
again.
go. That sounds great. We'll definitely do that. So, okay, I will cede the floor to you.
Oh, you're done? That's it?
That's all I need to say. All I need to say is that they made World Tour mode in Street Fighter 6, and it's phenomenal. And if you're a Street Fighter fan, you've already played it and you already know how good this is. If you're every now and then kind of dip into Street Fighter every once in a while, this is a version to check out. And I would say, especially if you were turned off by 5, which a lot of people were, 5 like really did damage to the brand. Like a lot of people left Street Fighter because of that game, which is like I was saying, like after the updates, it got good. Like eventually it was there. But you got to launch with. I know video games are different now. I know that products get released all the time and they're not finished, but there is a line, like there is a level of completed that you need to make a game, and Street Fighter 5 wasn't anywhere near that level. So to have Street Fighter 6 come out and like
It's beyond that level.
and look, this is not a controversial statement at all, but like when a company that makes things makes a bad thing, the only answer to correct that, making that bad thing, is to make an exceptionally good thing.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. So Street Fighter 6 is a 10 out of 10 from the old BT. And if you love fighting games, like you've already played it, and if you're on the fence or burned by 5, get back into 6. It's totally worth your time. 100%.
What system do you have it on?
PS5.
Is there a particular reason you bought it for that system instead of the Xbox?
Good question. Oh, well, the answer is yes. I have fancy joysticks for PlayStation. I have a slightly less fancy joystick for Xbox 360. I have the 8-bit Do arcade stick that I put a bunch of Sanwa parts in. I am speaking Egyptian to you right now, and that's fine.
I'm just staring blankly.
Yes, but I upgraded that joystick. It rules because it's wireless. All my PlayStation stuff is wired.
It's like a first date where I'm just like nodding along.
Yeah.
Okay, wired, huh?
Cool,
Got it. Yeah,
cool.
all right.
Some people out there know. They know. But yeah, it's great. It's tremendous. Can't recommend it enough. So Street Fighter 6 all the way.
I had an additional question for you, which is obviously there's an online mode where you can do online matchmaking. Do they have like any kind of like a leaderboard system, or do they host like it's still Capcom?
Oh, yeah,
right. They host like regular tournaments that you could participate in, like that sort of stuff.
It's huge. Like it's
a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
I mean, outside everybody knows about Evo, or a lot of people know about.
Oh,
Evo,
here's something. But so all of the features you would ever want in a competitive online fighting game are there. Every single one across the board, including like there's a separate room where you can compete your monstrosity world tour characters and have them fight against each other. So it's like literally almost like Pokemon in a way, where you're like, I'm going to level up my guy.
your creature.
And I'm going to compete my creature against your creature.
In your case, especially, it's a creature.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And here's another thing. And you know what? We're going to do part 2. We're going to come back on your game, guy, because I can get a full one on this guy. But in online mode, when you're waiting to fight, there is a fucking arcade in the mode, like an actual arcade full of candy cabinets that have old Capcom arcade games in them.
So you play Street Fighter 2 while you're waiting for your.
You can play Final Fight while you're waiting. You can play X-Dice.
Oh, who's the mayor?
Mike Hagar. Mike Hagar in World Tour mode has a gigantic gold statue in the city center, because you're in Metro City. You're in the city that Final Fight takes place. And there's a giant 100-foot tall statue made of gold of Mike Hagar in the city center. It's so good.
You did such a good job selling me on this game. I hope I could sell you on my game as good as you're selling me on your game. This is pretty.
Look, I've got faith in you. I think you will. But dude, honestly, like you're a perfect case study in like who this game is for, because I know you grew up with Street Fighter, and like. You're not, you didn't stick with us. You had to go do your thing, and that's fine. But if you've ever had a notion of like, I want to check that franchise out, see what they're doing now,
see what's happened. Yeah,
this is the game to do it.
So fighting games were awesome, and they were amazing, and they were very limited in scope, right? Like Street Fighter 2 Turbo was probably the peak, and Mortal Kombat 2 was the peak of that for me. And then Mortal Kombat 3 comes out and it's not as good. And then 4 is not as good. And then it just like, it felt like it went down.
Yeah.
And then what you're describing is a sort of renaissance of content and gameplay and all this stuff that I just never, like, I never walked back into it. It's like I left, and then everybody's like, no, hey, we're good now. We've got some good stuff out here. And I was like, actually, guys, there's this stuff over here, and I'm busy with that. You do you though. Glad you're doing great over there.
See, I would argue that maybe you did leave, but you probably got more interested in other games, and that's fine. But I would argue, maybe not you specifically, but for a large like chunk of the player base that loved Street Fighter 2, I think the genre pushed them out. And Street Fighter 3, like I was saying earlier, like really helped do that. Like Street Fighter 3 is a really complicated game. Like it really is. Like they introduced the parry system, which is like, if you love fighting games, then like you put the parry system in the highest esteem, and like it's in Street Fighter 6. Yeah. But the
most famous YouTube clip of all time.
Yeah,
is the parry clip.
Yes, the Daigo parrying Chun-Li super.
Most famous fighting game YouTube clip of all time.
So when you see that, and that every time Ryu is parrying that attack, like that's emotion. That's not like I'm holding a button down. That's somebody with inhuman physical reflexes doing something that only like an X-Men can do.
Like a 3-frame window or something to get it done.
Correct. So not your average player who liked to do fireballs at Pizza Hut, that game is not for them. And Capcom's not the only ones guilty of that. King of Fighters got more complicated. Guilty Gear, which I'm sure you don't know anything about, Guilty Gear is insanely complicated. There's systems on systems and subsystems within those systems. And we're talking about fighting games, which is Twitch gameplay. Like everything's fast. So to have all these layers and complicated things in really fast gameplay, like you really got to love that shit to give into it.
Did they do that because they just needed to add complexity to justify like new features? So if you're putting out a new game, it's like, well, what's new? We've got new characters, but we've also got new features.
Yeah.
But sometimes like adding new features means like if you're adding new moves, it's more button mashing that people have to memorize. I mean, is that where that came from, or is it just bad design? Or maybe it's both.
So I personally don't say it's bad design, but I'm clearly biased. Like I've never gotten off the fighting game train, so I welcomed the complexity. But on the other side of that coin, like because I mean, it's kind of it's lumped in together. But when in the late '90s, when arcades were really like dying, like starting to die, you had your Street Fighter 3 and all that stuff. And even that game, like the hardware that the game is on is super expensive. So like for an arcade operator to invest the money in it, and it wasn't lighting the world on fire. The other big issue about Street Fighter 3 is that the first version of it came out, new generation, they really meant that. Like you only have Ryu and Ken, and the entire roster is all brand new, which is cool. But in 1997, not so cool, especially when people see Street Fighter 3. And you got to remember how big of a deal it was to count to 3 for Capcom.
Oh boy, I'll never forget.
Yeah. So when they come out with Street Fighter 3 and your favorite fighter, whoever that may be, isn't in it, you're automatically disappointed.
If I can't be Guile, if I can't see that glorious blonde hair,
that sweet gravity-defying upside down roundhouse
Ric
kick.
Flair's long lost son.
Yeah, totally. So I think fighting games in general alienated casual players and only catered to hardcore players. Which whenever you do that, it only benefits obviously the hardcore players, and then eventually your shit dies off, and it did until Street Fighter 4. So they had to learn that lesson. But what's funny too, like it's still like it's not. I mean, I'm trying to illustrate how beloved Street Fighter 3 is to this day, especially Third Strike. It's like one of the most revered fighting games ever made. But it had to age into that. Like it even when it came out, it certainly had its fans, and Evo started because of Street Fighter 3. Like I just learned this the other day. Like GGP netcode or GPPO netcode, the famous rollback netcode, was invented by the people who founded Evo because they just wanted to play fighting games online well.
That is awesome.
And so they're like, fuck this shit. We're gonna from scratch design netcode that revolutionized online gameplay just so that they could play Street Fighter online using MAME, which is awesome.
Gamers find a way.
They find a way, just like life. So yeah, a long way to answer your question is I think it was an alienation and a push out type of a thing. It's not necessarily bad design, but you can make that argument if your goal is to make as much money as possible and to be as successful as possible, then you probably should design your game to be more broad, which is exactly what they did in Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
Then they shit the bed with 5, came back with a vengeance on 6.
But now 6, but you're a hardcore guy.
Yeah.
But 6 is still selling really well too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
have they just thread the needle where they can make a game that's broad enough to appeal to rubes like me, but then also be beloved by somebody, a hardcore guy like you?
So if 6 wasn't the game that it is, and luckily it is, I think there is a good chance, a significant chance even, that we wouldn't see Street Fighter again for years, because 5 did so much damage. So the fact that they knew that and they were cognizant of that, like they had to hit 6 out of the park, even from no other standpoint other than a content standpoint. So by putting all this work in to make World Tour mode as good as it is and as compelling as it is, if they didn't do that, who knows? I mean, it's hard to say like something like Street Fighter. It's like saying Pac-Man goes away. Like Pac-Man never goes away. It's fucking Pac-Man. Mario will never go away because it's Mario. Yeah. But you never know. Like I don't ever think this is going to happen.
Yeah, here we go.
But you could, like, there is a universe somewhere where there's some team in charge of a Mario game.
Why are you doing this? Mario Wonder comes out in a month, Brian. You talk about
that's
jinxing.
not going to be that game. That's not going to be. But Mario fucking Sunshine is that game. Mario Sunshine stinks. Like there are aspects of that game that are cool. Sure. I love the tropical vibe and hanging out in Plaza Delfino, and the music's great and blah, blah, blah. It's not fun. It's not fun. The camera sucks. It is a chore to play a Mario game, and that's the one. But you know, it didn't
kill Mario.
It didn't kill Mario. Street Fighter 5 nearly killed Street Fighter. And Street Fighter 3, for different reasons, also nearly killed Street Fighter. So 6 had to be really good. Luckily for fans, it was really, really, really good. And I think like by them front loading that game and making it super content heavy, especially for a fighting game, is the best decision that Capcom could have possibly done.
Capcom kind of riding a high right now, right? Aren't they like putting out a ton of really quality games and content?
So, and I'm a fan of everything I'm about to tell you.
I'm a fan of everything I'm about to tell you.
Monster Hunter is better than ever. Resident Evil is better than ever by a long shot.
Yeah, the VR release.
Village in VR, I stand by. I think on our VR episode, I said it's the best VR experience. Yep. I still stand by that, and I've had more VR experiences since then, and Village is still on the top. Street Fighter obviously is fucking fantastic. That game, I don't know if you tried it yet. It's called Exo Primal. It was a Game Pass game that they did.
No, I did not.
You should check it out. It's I don't know if a lot of people are still playing it. I don't hear anyone really talking about it, but the concept of it is so zany and the gameplay is so fun that it's worth checking out. But you basically you're like a, big jacked up buff dude in a suit, Gears of War style, and you're working in a team to slaughter thousands and thousands of dinosaurs. And then at a certain point in the mode, you get to
previews for this.
Yes. There's a certain point in one of the modes where you at random one of your team members gets turned into a giant dinosaur, and then you go and you maul people. It's so fun. But I don't know if it's still a thing or not. I think when it came out, a lot of people were playing it. But to your point, yes, Capcom is currently on fire, and I hope it stays that way because a handful of years ago, it wasn't looking so good. Like Resident Evil 6 was a really shitty game.
Yeah.
There's a whole controversy. Well, controversy is not the right word because there really was no controversy about it. There was a period in time not that long ago, maybe 12, 13 years ago, where there was like legitimate questions about not only Capcom, but Japanese video game design in general.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like so Japan is always they know how to make video games. Like that's what they fucking do over there. But there was a period of time in the mid 2000s where they were sucking real bad.
I remember this.
And
really well.
you had on the other side, you had games like Mass Effect come out, like genre defining and bending games that were really legitimately good. And Japan's answer to it was like Resident Evil 6 and 5 and just bad games. Like just if they're not bad, then they're just straight average. And then I would say with Capcom, like they started to turn the tide with Street Fighter 4, and then they reimagined Resident Evil, turned into a first person thing, and those the 2 remakes, 2 and 3 that I have right there, and now 4, like they're showing you how to properly remake or remaster a video game. Like I think they're right now the best at doing that. So who knows? Maybe they'll continue that trend. I think they will. Feels like they will.
It's always really impressive to me when a I mean, Capcom's sort of a developer and publisher, but when an entity can create a number of different video games in different genres and have them all be good. So like making a Resident Evil game or a remake of a Resident Evil game, making a fighting game, and then making a Monster Hunter game. Those are three very different types of games for three largely different video game audiences. So to have a high bar of quality for all three, and they all come out within, well, we'll just say within the last 5 years or 3 years. Even. That's a very impressive feat, especially for a developer or publisher that you think that you know. I've had Capcom in my life since Mega Man. Right?
Literally childhood.
Yeah. So it's like you think you figured them out, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, actually, here's all this stuff. Now they got a new Bomberman game coming for Super Nintendo for the Switch soon, right?
Well, that's Konami. I did not mean to do that to you.
Oh no,
but it's Konami. Well, now I want to say this, and I say this begrudgingly because, like, philosophically, I don't think that this class of people deserves this, but you have to give credit to management. Like Capcom, so they're
listen to Mr. Shill here for the corporate guys. Okay, defend the suits, Brian.
I will, bro. Look, they're people too.
They're people too. Yeah.
But so they're like, obviously the Street Fighter team is not the same as the Resident Evil team. Like that's obvious. But Capcom's a giant company, so you have like very specialized kind of things. But the people that are making the decisions, and a perfect example is in Street Fighter 4, like when they were first designing it, it was management that said, you have to put every single Street Fighter 2 character back in this game. You have to. Because you didn't in Street Fighter 3, and we lost our ass. Yeah. And the developers listened, did that, and it made the game infinitely better. Street Fighter 4 would have been a great game if it came out with like a bunch of new characters. But if it didn't have the original, like it wouldn't have come close to having the hype and the reaction that it had. Like it made people such as yourself who, like maybe gave up on Street Fighter, made them all come back. So, and that's management, baby. That was executives.
I really like that this show has turned into. So we did the 38 Studios episode where we're like, you know what 38 Studios need more of? Government intervention and regulation. That's what that studio needed.
Yeah.
So, and then we talked about Star Citizen in the past, and then generally, at least my view of all the Kickstarter scams is like, you need publishers to come in and to tell these overly ambitious developers to just tone it down a little bit. So it's like we're like the establishment cucks, basically, who are like, look, the problem here is that you need more management, more oversight. You need some suits. You need
more people who don't have your skill set to tell you how to use your skill set.
Yeah, just tone everything down, guys, and it'll be okay. Now Capcom's the latest example of that.
Well, we seem pretty cool now, don't we? All right. I'm going to button it here because we're going to come back. We're going to talk about what you've been playing.
Cool.
But yeah, I went a little bit longer than I thought I would. I can keep going because I love Street Fighter so hard. But I won't. For your sake and for probably their sake as well.
Fair enough.
But yes, come back for part 2. And we're going to talk about what Uncle Bob's been playing.